You got a different
You know he's famous.
Hey, we're finna go live. Make sure you share the video, tag yourself, do all that. Snapchat, post, tweet. Don't squirt.
Wait. What the camera say? The camera say.
We're finna go live. Come on up here, Don.
The camera say twerk.
Listen, I've been gone with it.
Handy, your cloud cricket, handed.
He said you figured it out.
Hand.
He said, you know those numbers are.
He said you figured it out. You know what the numbers are.
You know what they mean.
We're going to have a great show lined up for you today. We have Donna here from the Mississippi Urban Tree Council talking about trees and agriculture. Matt gonna nod his head and laugh.
What's the name? What's the correct name? Because he just chopped in the name here.
Forestry.
Actually, right.
Mississippi Urban Forestry Council.
It's kind of the same.
That's why I started
We're
laughing.
gonna talk about trees.
We'll talk about trees.
Talk about trees. Trees are important.
Go and tune in to 90.1. Now, current one. We come out here sometime. We roll with the punches. Tell Miles, come on in. We're gonna bring him out of
I
retirement.
have to do the.
No, you don't need it. You don't need it. We're gonna bring him out of retirement.
Did he probably like that?
He put his phones on silent and vibrate. I sure appreciate it. Okay. Well, welcome back to 90.1.
Thank you. It's been a while.
Been a while.
But it was really good to see Mr. Evers.
Yeah. Come to find out he's in the Electoral College. Yep. So we're gonna have a great show, ladies and gentlemen. Tune in. Make sure you share the video with your friends. We're gonna talk about last week's council meeting, some things we didn't touch on yesterday, and what's going on for next week. Oh, we're gonna talk about Sue and Siemens too. Oh, yeah, we're gonna talk about Sue and Siemens too.
We got some list of announcements.
A whole bunch of announcements.
Whole bunch.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Revive Mississippi Show. I'm your host, Dekeither Stamps. We got our co-host here, Mr. Mac Epps. How you doing, Mac?
I'm doing good, sir. How about yourself?
I was about to call you your government name.
Now, don't you do that on this public broadcast.
Well, I sure appreciate you. We got a great show lined up for you, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about the Mississippi Urban Forestry Council's structure, what it's all about, and how the city of Jackson can benefit from it. We're going to talk about our council meeting that was last week, and some things that will be coming up on next week's council agenda. We'll also be talking about suing the Siemens company. I've been trying to do that for some time now. So we got a pretty good show lined up for you, ladies and gentlemen. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy. And first and foremost, I wanted to start the conversation tonight off. You know, we have a lot of families with loss right now and bereavement. Definitely keep all the bereaved families in your hearts and prayers, because everybody is not having a good holiday season this year because of all of the heavy deaths and different families across the listening area. So definitely, don't just get so distracted with the holidays and festivities and parties, but give some condolences, to all the bereaved families out there, because it's definitely a somber time. I want to give special regards out to my council colleague, Councilman Kenny Stokes, lost his brother. Families definitely having a hard time dealing with this, so please keep them in your hearts and prayers, because they definitely need it. And if you see him on the street, give him some words of encouragement, shoot him a phone call, or swing by the house and tell him that you appreciate him and help him through these times. But first, we're going to talk to Donna. She's here from the Mississippi Urban Forestry Council. Welcome to the show, dear.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So tell people a little bit about the council, what it does, and what its effect is on Mississippi.
Well, our organization is a statewide organization, and we work with communities in helping them build a strong green infrastructure. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of reasons you want a strong green infrastructure in communities. A lot of it has to do with quality of life, property values, air quality, water quality, and a lot of other benefits. So we go to cities all over the state, and we work with them and try to help them develop programs that are specific to their towns, because our towns in Mississippi are quite different. We have small, rural communities up to the larger urban communities along the coast and here in Jackson. So the needs are different. So we try to customize a program that fits the needs. But one of the key things is the benefits that go to the citizens and how the citizens can actually make a difference in their community and participate in the programs.
So a couple of years ago, there was a tree canopy study done for the city of Jackson. Could you kind of share with the listening audience some of the things that were learned from that, and then how we can use that information in the city to make our city a better place?
Well, a tree canopy study basically tells us what like it says, the tree canopy for the area is. So, for example, if you've got a very low percentage tree canopy and a high percentage of hard surface, impervious surface, then you're going to have more problems related to stormwater runoff, less energy conservation, those sort of things. So if you can look at the areas, what we call plantable areas, and inventory those to develop a program that says, okay, well, we need to put more trees here for the benefits that those trees will generate for the community. So the study that we did in Jackson, actually it showed that Jackson had a huge percentage of tree canopy for an urban community, which is a good thing. It had 51%, which is awesome for an urban community. But the problem that it showed also, or not so much a problem, but the opportunities that it showed, was the areas in the inner city that had far less canopy, less than 30%, there are huge opportunities to improve the quality of life, plant trees for those community services that they give. So having the study, and actually the study was done on a number of things. It was based on drainage basins. So you could use the study to say, okay, well, here's a lot of spaces that we can plant trees to process stormwater or store more stormwater. So it was also inventory based on census for low-income or underserved areas. And that was very enlightening in that some of the best opportunities for Jackson to plant trees to gain those benefits are in those areas. Ward 3 had the lowest tree canopy, so that tells us there's a huge opportunity there to increase your green infrastructure.
Now, when you talk about green infrastructure, kind of educate us on what benefit trees will have when it comes to infrastructure.
Well, green infrastructure, just like you have your lights and your sewage system, you've got your public works, your different types of infrastructure. The natural landscapes, whether it's just green space or forest within the city, serve certain benefits to the city. So that's what we term green infrastructure. And there's actually a way now that you can calculate the monetary value of that. You can take the tree canopy and say, okay, well, it's going to store and process X amount of stormwater.
Right.
So this is how much value that area has to the city to mitigate stormwater issues.
So when you talk about stormwater and stormwater runoff, that's how we are able to maintain the more water you can get off the streets and get into the creek system and to a green infrastructure system, the better quality you'll have long term for your roads and infrastructure that you're putting in place. And that's what I was trying to get to. If you kind of talk how that relates to each other, because most of the folks listening to our show, they want to hear about streets and infrastructure and roads.
Right.
So talk about how the quality of the trees in your area and how they're putting the types of trees that you plant feed into a better quality of life and infrastructure.
Well, the water has to go somewhere.
That's right.
When it rains, the water is going somewhere. So if it can go into a green space, and trees absorb a lot of water, they store a lot of water. So if that stormwater can go into a green space that processes the water naturally, it costs the city a lot less money. Plus you get all the other benefits related to the green infrastructure or the trees that are planted. It's just really a low-cost way to address that. Of course, with the city the size of Jackson, you've got a lot of infrastructure already built in. So you may have to go somewhere else along the basin, the watershed, or the stream, so to speak, and look for available spaces to store the stormwater, maybe not at one specific location, but throughout the drainage basin. And that's one of the things that the inventory shows us is where those opportunities lie.
Yeah. All right, and I'm glad you brought that point up, because when we were putting in place the infrastructure master plan, there is green infrastructure laced all through it to incorporated in the plan. It's not just dealing with streets and curbs and ditches. There's also a degree of green infrastructure in the infrastructure master plan, and that's when I just wanted to educate folks on when they hear the mayor talk about green infrastructure. He's talking about saving money and providing a better quality of life. When you fix a street, you fix it, but also you put some green infrastructure in place so you can have a long-term use for the excess water and provide a better quality of life.
And that really makes a lot of sense in that you're using natural resources to help save the city money and also create a sustainable landscape and infrastructure. So ideally, that's the way sometimes the opportunities are lost due to previous development and those sort of things. But when you can go back and look at a study that shows, and actually this canopy study zooms down by parcels. Jackson has like 60,000 plus residential parcels. So
Let me catch this call. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. Please turn your radio down, caller. Turn your radio down, caller. Okay, what's your question or comment?
My question is this. In my neighborhood, there are 3 neighbors, including myself, that have paid thousands of dollars to have trees cut down because of the danger of these trees falling on our homes. In a lot of neighborhoods within the city of Jackson, people do not want trees because the trees get into the sewage system, and they also get into the waterworks that they have coming from their homes. So how do you balance that with the desire to have a green space? Thank you.
Okay. And that's a great question, Ms. Whitfield. And balancing it is very important because, where you put trees is important. You don't want to put a tree right next to the sewer line that goes from your house to the street, right? Because the roots are going to find that and it's going to wrap around it. But you also, let me give you another little piece of information that we learned from the study is that Ward 3 and in the area between Ward 3 and the where Grove Park, where Ms. Benford lives, has the least amount of trees in the whole city. Well, the ward that has the most amount of trees is Ward 7. So there's a direct link between the amounts of trees in your neighborhood and the property values as well. And so we have to also think about property values, and that's just a direct correlation. When you look at Ward 7 having about 60-something% canopy in that ward, and Ward 3 having 30% canopy. So, there's a link between how your trees are planted in your neighborhood, the types of trees you have, linking directly to the value of the actual property in the neighborhood.
right, and one of the things that's planting the right tree in the right place it's very important, especially in an urban community and in the neighborhoods here in Jackson, because you don't have the space. So if you have a small space, you want to take that into consideration. But yet, also because the city has been established for a very long time, you've got maintenance of existing trees that you're looking at, and that is a reality, and it is a balance. And I think one of the things that we can have learned from these aerials of these individual lots, because it's done by parcel, is so you're going to avoid these maintenance problems down the road.
So I guess I had a question. What would you recommend for some of those areas we just talked about? Like, what are some safe trees that you would say to plant in an urban area? And could also give the information for those who desire to want to replant, what do they need to do, what steps they need to take?
Well, one of the rule of thumbs on trees as far as their storm resistance is the faster a tree grows, the more weak wooded it is, and the more storm damage. So If you look, and I hate to pick on certain varieties, but say a Bradford pear, we all know that those grow really fast. They're really pretty, but they grow fast and they're very weak-wooded, and they're going to fall around. We know some of the oaks and some of the other trees have small branches that tend to litter. But if you have the space, and that's only if you have the space where the roots aren't a problem, you want to plant trees that create a canopy, because it's the canopy that provides all the benefits.
Yeah, break that down, the canopy.
For example, we find a lot of communities that want to plant crepe myrtles. Well, crepe myrtles are beautiful, and they're really good trees to accent small areas and provide color and those sort of things. But they don't create the canopy that provides the energy savings, the stormwater management, and those sort of things. But you can only have those large trees in places that can accommodate a large root system, and those sort of things. So you have to scale it down. And one of the recommendations that we have for Jackson, especially specific to maybe the residential lots, is to come up with a recommended tree list. Have your 10 varieties of a large tree, 10 varieties of a medium, and then 10 of a smaller tree, so that your citizens, when they look at their lot on this survey, because they'll be able to go in and look at their lot, and they'll be able to take that picture to the garden center and say, well, I need a small tree for this. And you can kind of help them fine-tune that.
Another reason I wanted to come here is because we need to stop just letting nature take its course in our neighborhoods with trees, because we won't cut a tree down when it's young, if it's in the wrong place. So if you have a tree that's in the wrong place, it's better to go out there with a cow's blade or an axe or something, cut that little small tree down. Right. When it's still small. Don't just let it grow. You want to be intentional when it comes to trees around your house, because it has an effect on your energy. Your house. It's going to have an effect on you 10, 15 years from now if you're going to be in this house for a while. So, be keenly aware of where your trees are, and it'll save you money if you pay more attention to where your trees are, and not just necessarily cut them all down, but if you're going to have trees in your area, make it intentional and plan that out versus just letting nature take its course in your neighborhood.
That's so true, and avoid utilities, underground and overhead at all times.
And also, trees will help save money on your energy bills. Can you talk a little bit about how trees save money on your energy bill?
Well, that's probably one of the, I like to say one of the more important things, because we all like to save money on our utility bills. But if you plant the right tree in the right place around your home, you can save up to 50% on your utility bill. And you can find more information on the location of plantings on a number of websites. You can just Google in trees for energy savings, and it'll give you diagrams of where to plant. We recently did a project in Pascagoula that showed we planted trees around a number of schools to demonstrate to the citizens what they could do with their homes and businesses. And then we were able to factor out what the energy savings of those trees would be 50 to 100 years from now. And basically, in Mississippi, for every $1 that you invest in planting a tree, you're looking at about $25 worth of benefits. And that includes some of the things you mentioned, like property values will increase, crime and vandalism decrease, energy savings, air quality, water quality, those kind of things.
Let's get this caller. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment?
Good evening, Councilman Stanton, to your guest there. Smith Park, and I think downtown Jackson has an article. They had to take up the oak trees because they were growing on the sidewalks and they didn't have enough room for root growth or something like that. Now you got an issue with Smith Park where they cut down a lot of trees there. And I want to say Jackson State University has been labeled Tree University. They planted a lot of trees over there, and those trees are really, really nice. So I'm just enjoying you guests that talking about trees. I actually like trees myself and think that they have a lot of value, can provide a lot of value to your home. Like you say, if they're planted in the right place and if they're done right. But What I know, they were planting trees in downtown Jackson. Can you tell me what type of trees they were planting? Because they said they had to remove those oaks and plant some on Capitol Street there. So I'll hang up in there too.
Okay. There was some, talking about Smith Park, it's not my ward, but if I recall correctly, there was some bad health in the trees as well. And not wanting for a few years from now for, the trees to fall down and, decay, you can just, start over basically and plant something that'll be better for that area. So we got to start looking at that all around the city, like, what can we do now to stop, like the trees were tearing up the concrete on the sidewalk there. So in order to save the sidewalk, you need to cut the tree down also, so there's several different places that we need to look at and see how we can provide a better landscape for our areas in the city. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment?
Yes, you may have an 8-foot tree, peak tree, but the root system may extend out 40 or 50 feet
Yes, ma'am.
within the 3 or 4 directions. So you have to be careful because you have the foundation to the homes. So you may have a tree 10 feet or 20 feet from your house, but the root system may extend 30 or 40 feet away from the tree. So I think this should be also mentioned.
Yes, ma'am. And you're totally right, Ms. Mifford. And that's why I want to start taking the conversation to another level, just not on the surface, but we really need to start looking at how we build our city, how we maintain our individual properties, how we maintain our parks, and all those things, so that we can be making the best decisions possible. That's why she talked about the better types of trees to plant in an area. You can have trees next to your house that grow in a different way than the normal tear up my foundation type trees. So we start paying real close attention to trees, and also talk. If you see your neighbor out there planting a tree, y'all need to have a joint discussion, because if that tree's in his yard, the roots is in your yard. So we have to really start having some conversations about trees, the effects on the houses, and the effects on the infrastructure going down the street.
And another thing, from a previous show we had, I think it was called 811, because you need to call before you dig. That's one thing that can help when you start to get ready to plant a tree. Even though on the surface it looks like it's a good area to plant a tree, but you don't know what pipes or what things are running in the area that's close by where you're going to plant that tree that's going to cause a problem in the next couple of years.
That's right.
And that's very important to call 811, because you can run into huge fines if you don't.
Let me catch this call.
If not, your flag, fine.
Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment?
Thank you so much for taking the call. Being a person that I'm strictly about environment, and there's a lot of tree cutting because of a lot of damaged trees in certain areas. Certain communities, trees are just really falling on people's homes where there's no occupancy in the home or on the property, and it's costing the homeowner, where you can't find just a lost landlord or a lost property owner. So somebody else's insurance say, hey, we can't pay for this because it's not on your property, it's over here. So we got to look at a whole lot of things, Dekeither, and I appreciate this conversation. I'm all about trees and environment, and if you're cutting trees, anybody out there cutting trees, remember they don't all have to go to landfill. There's so many ways to preserve the trees that you're cutting. So much you can repurpose. There's so many ideas of repurposing, and that's what we're doing here in Jackson and keep Jackson beautiful. We're really trying to preserve what we have, and so many beautiful trees are out there being just cut down, for different reasons. And we would like this city to just reevaluate what we do with our landfills. And there's so many just wonderful things you can do with trees. And this is Patty Patterson. Anybody out there knows my information, get in contact with me. We can do so many beautiful things, and to give back, and also keep a lot of youth off the street, because it's a craft. And just great to have this conversation. We've been planting all over the city to keep Jackson beautiful. And we just really enjoying this conversation as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment?
Hey, Stan, this is Will Harris, a.k.a. Bud, the citizen. Yeah, I got a comment for you. Since you all are talking about trees, what can you do about your neighbor's trees, such as like if they got rotten limbs falling on your property, and you don't have any trees on your property, and the limbs is falling on your property, damaging things, and such as like I spent over $2,000 having limbs cut off of somebody else's tree that's hanging over my property. And every time a wind blows, it still blow a limb on top of my house or sections and stuff like that. And plus all the tree roots running up under your house. Because like they said, if you see a tree limb hanging over your roof, those roots is running more than 20 or 50 feet longer than the limb hanging.
That's right.
And I have that problem with my pipes, with limbs running up under my foundation and all that stuff with neighbors' trees. What can you do about that?
Okay. Well, there's a lot of things that need to be done when it comes to trees in your neighbor's yard and all that. You have to have a real discussion with your neighbor, because in some cases we found that when you cut a tree down where you might not have had foundation problems, when they have roots underneath your house, where the tree dies, then the roots die, and now you got these voids all underneath your foundation, then you have problems after you cut the tree down. So you really got to start paying attention to, cutting trees down and get somebody who knows what they're doing or talking about before you cut the tree down. To come out there and take a look at it.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm having that problem now because, my sewer line and stuff, and I got holes in my front yard that caved in, from neighbors' trees, and when I repaired the water line, the roots, coming from a neighbor's trees running across my pipes, and that's the problem I'm having.
Mm-hmm. And so, do you have any comments about something like that?
What Mr. Stamps mentioned about trying to work out something with your neighbor is the best solution. And if the tree, if you can determine that it's a healthy tree and it's just shedding its limbs, then maintaining that tree would be your best route out. If it's a hazard tree, hazard trees are determined by if they do fall, are they going to damage something, property or people, so those are considered hazard trees. But if working something out with your neighbors, the insurance is all the companies vary from company to company how they handle hazard trees. So you would need to get in touch with your insurance company on that. But one of the things I would like to say, the lady that mentioned the root system, most people think the root system stops at the drip line.
No.
And that's just not the case at all. That's why it's real important that you don't plant a large tree in a small space. But yet, a lot of homeowners here are managing trees that were planted 50, 100 years ago.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
So trees do require some maintenance. Not near what other infrastructure in cities do,
right?
But it's learning how to use them in a way that you're gaining as much benefit or service as possible and the least liability.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Harris. And so, trees are definitely important. I want to kind of shift gears. We got about 30 minutes left to go on the show and talk about agriculture. You have a background and an interest in agriculture, and we do as well. And talk about the opportunities here in the city of Jackson to get involved in agriculture that you see. Because we're trying to lure you back into the city.
I would love to. Jackson's my hometown. I love Jackson. Matter of fact, we did a gardening program at the Ag Museum 25 years ago called Roots and Shoots. Mm-hmm. And the children were brought in on their buses, and they would plant. We assisted from the planting, and then they would come back and care for the plants and then harvest. And it was just a very rewarding program. And of course, there's a lot of community gardens in Jackson already. We come in and we help put in fruit trees. Mm-hmm. Fruit trees is something that we've kind of gotten away from a little bit.
And we need to get back into fruit trees.
I like fruit, so you definitely.
And we can grow so much here in Jackson. Matter of fact, one of our orchards is over at Wells Methodist Church on Bailey Avenue. Mm-hmm. And then we have another one at Brown Elementary.
Rosemont.
Mm-hmm,
Rosemont Church over Pastor Jimmy Edwards.
And what we do, we volunteer with the local groups that are doing the gardens. add fruit trees as a complement to it. Fruit trees, of course, they're maintenance. But they are perennial crops, so that once they get established, once they get past that 3 to 5 year window, then you've got a really nice source of locally grown produce that has less maintenance.
So what fruit trees would you say work really well in Mississippi?
Well, that goes back to the same thing about picking out trees for your yard or for street trees. Pick out the right tree for the right place. Mm-hmm. And some of the things that and one of the reasons we did the Wells orchard was to show an example of what fruit trees do well in Mississippi. And some of the old-timey ones like figs do extremely well here. Yeah. Plum, pear. We can grow some apples. Citrus does not do well here. We've got a couple of orchards on the coast that they're doing well, but I wouldn't recommend that for here unless you have a heat source. So there are a lot of different fruit trees that we can grow.
That sounds good. Because I grew up, I was talking earlier about, grew up with fruit trees. I know peach, we had peach, and our neighbors had a big orchard of different trees. And I remember the apple tree we had. And I guess a lot of it is that education about knowing what to plant, even when it comes to just beautification trees, and knowing what to plant and how to take care of a tree. That's going to make a big difference.
This case is called. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment? Please turn your radio down.
Yes, my radio is already down. When you plant your fruit trees, it's important to know that pollination is very important because bees are active in carrying pollination. But if you plant an apple tree, should you have a male and a female, or do you have to mix the sexes up, or what is it that you need to do to make sure that you get some fruit? Because I planted an apple tree and it never did bear any fruit. But I found out later that I needed another tree to make sure that there was adequate pollination of the tree that I had planted. Thank you.
Yes, some of the fruit trees do have to have pollination, and so you have to make sure that you've got the right variety. Unfortunately, in Mississippi, it's very difficult to find the varieties that do best in our state, and I think that's a real opportunity for a nursery grower to start producing fruit trees that really do well in Mississippi.
That's homework.
That's a wide open opportunity there. When we go to our to purchase fruit trees, most of the time they're shipped in from other states. So it is important, and some trees do need the male and female version of the fruit tree, and it varies.
Talk about a little bit about agriculture. We'll be rolling out an agriculture initiative in about a month. We'll talk about the opportunities that are here in Jackson dealing with agriculture and a lot of these vacant lots in areas around town.
I think that's a huge opportunity. This newer generation is really interested in, and not that us older folks aren't, but they're really interested in what they eat and what they put into their bodies as far as health issues. So being able to grow your own produce in your backyard is very important. And I think with the spaces that Jackson has available, there's a huge opportunity there. And the other benefit is it's not just you and your family that's eating healthy. It also can supplement your income tremendously. My son is an organic farmer in Bolton, and he sells to the restaurants and the farmers markets, and he's got members of his farm. So there's a lot of opportunity for, using these spaces for that.
I was going to highlight a show my wife and I have been watching, which is called Queen Sugar. That comes on Oprah's network. But it was just showing about how the family that had that root of organic farming, and they moved away and had to come back and found out the benefits, not only for the community, but monetary benefits it was in going back into farming. That's something we had to give kudos to. Councilman Stamps talk about it all the time. especially for the African American community, to get back to their roots of farming.
That's right. Let's get this caller. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment?
Yes, thank you for taking my call. We're talking agriculture. I was wondering, since 1965, since the University of Mississippi has been studying the cannabis family, and now that Donald Trump has been elected for president, his vision to make more Mississippi products, where do in agriculture you see it using those products to make Mississippi used to be one of the wealthiest nation in the world. Where is the vision you see that by knowing that over 25,000 products and health products for the vision for Mississippi?
Okay. Well, let me definitely just tell you, I've agreed with you since you brought that out when you ran for mayor. A lot of people may have laughed, but you're dead serious. I mean, the entire country is legalizing marijuana for some simple reasons. First and foremost, it's a $25 billion market that's been controlled historically by a few folks in different states, and the distribution of it has been controlled by mainly black folks around the country. And so a lot of folks are legalizing marijuana because they want in on that income, but not just because you can smoke marijuana. There are thousands of different products that you can make. And, and my position on it is that I don't think that Mississippi probably going to legalize marijuana anytime soon, but we can produce, but we can.
That's the misnomer in terms of the cannabis family. The cannabis family is only the female that is the medicine in terms of marijuana. The medicine also instead, but the products that comes out of it, like the fiber and even the meal and the vitamins. I mean, so we're not just looking at it in terms of marijuana, because once cannabis is mentioned, that's like the first thing comes into a person's mind, other than looking at the industry of what can be produced out of in terms of the millions of jobs. Now that Trump is in office and having this transition with China, which they get most of their product that's made of the cannabis family, is looking at in terms of United States as being an agriculture that's producing these products. So, I mean, the University of Mississippi knows that all the 35 over products that comes out of it. So where's the vision, not just in marijuana, but just in that cannabis family? And I'm going to just hang up with this.
And so when it comes to marijuana, you're totally right. There are many other things you can do with the plant. There are many other materials that can be manufactured and exported to other places. And so there's a huge opportunity on the agriculture side for all of the plants that are in the cannabis family. And, a lot of, like you said, a lot of people just focus on smoking marijuana and stuff like that. But there are so many other products and industrial applications for the entire cannabis family, not just that one type of plant. But also, Mississippi needs to get back into the agriculture industry. Right. We need to get back to growing a lot more food. We, like she said, and she was totally right when she said that Mississippi used to be the 5th highest economic producing state in this country. Is when everybody was eating out of our hands. But right now, Mississippi has about 1.7 million acres of unused farmland that's just sitting idle right now. And the global vision is the world's biggest problem in the next 40 years is how do you feed 9 billion people? That's the problem all around the world right now, is how do you feed 9 billion people? And we must get back into agriculture. And as Mississippians, we can get that wealth because we have the richest farmland in the entire country, and we're not using it. And you got people starving all over the world, and in climates in areas where they can't grow their own food. All these arid countries where they're building up in the Middle East and Saudi Arabia and all those areas, they can't grow the food to sustain themselves. They got to buy it. Well, they got oil, but we got food. So we need to get back into that type of exchange if we're going to build our economy in something real. We're not just going to chicken plant our way back to economic survival. We're not going to just, build, beef plants and stuff like that and get back to being a heavyweight economically. Let me catch this caller. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question?
Thank you, Councilor, for taking my call. You talking about, because back in the 50s when I was in the country, I heard the young lady said, when I raised stuff in bowling, not football. The federal government was paying us to plant a vegetable and all of that stuff, but they would turn around and had to till it in because they didn't want you to sell it.
Right.
So back then we had planted, people come all out of the spring and come around bring palm raised potatoes and tomatoes, and we went in the country out in the fields and found blackberries and all of that stuff grew up in the country where you could just go out there and get it. But they made sure that we got all of it dug up and cut up and because you not to raise it. So now we in that the victim that where we can't find a real vegetable anymore. That's why our price is so high. And we want to say thank you.
Yes, and you're totally right. The reason why the prices are so high is because local people are not involved in agriculture. We become addicted to grocery stores to feed us. And so what the grocery stores do is they'll ship in tomatoes from California and all over that place. And they'll price it at whatever price point they want to give it to you because you don't have access locally. But the way you drive those prices down is you bring in more local farmers. And so that's what we'll be rolling out in about a month and a half or so. We're in negotiations right now with USDA and some other folks about pushing forth a serious agriculture initiative for the city of Jackson and across Mississippi. So be looking forward to that. Let me catch this next caller. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment?
Yes, I remember when cheese and beans and other products were given to poor people in Mississippi and other states. And then we have tons of food that is being plowed under in order to keep the price of these products stable. So can you talk to that in terms of what can people do who are in office that can make sure that a lot of the food that is being plowed under just to keep prices down, that this food is distributed in a way that it will benefit everyone, especially poor people.
Okay. And thanks again, Ms. Smith. You're definitely always add great value to the show. The city of Cleveland, Ohio, did a Cleveland High Tunnel initiative, and a high tunnel is a big greenhouse that allows it was something like a greenhouse, but it allows you to do year-round farming in an urban city. So that's what we're looking at doing here in Jackson is more of the high tunnel type farms so that you can produce more fruits and vegetables. I was talking to a council person from Cleveland, and they have a local farmer who's making about $200,000 a year in profit out of one high tunnel that he has on a piece of his property. So you can definitely produce more food locally, and that will drive the prices down, because if I got tomatoes over here at 89 cents a pound, and in Walmart got them at $1.25, well, they're going to have to adjust it down so they can sell it, or they won't be able to sell them at all, or they have to buy it locally. So what we're going to do is we're going to start working with folks across our ward to put high tunnels up, and also work with the USDA and Alcorn's Extension Service to train folks on how to use these types of farming so that we can start making this money ourselves. Right now, Mississippi purchases about $7 billion in groceries every year, but we only produce about $100 million in fruits and vegetables. So that's a huge economic opportunity. We're talking about over $6 billion of groceries that we're buying that we could be producing ourselves and keeping the money versus sending the money in other places. So we're going to focus on fresh fruits and vegetables and also getting folks back into farming so we can make this money. And so you'll see that coming. Be looking forward to that. We'll be talking about on the show more in depth in the coming weeks. But right now we got 15 minutes left to go. I want to do some announcements, Matt.
Yes. All right. Some of the announcements we talk about always dealing with the low-hanging fruit, no pun intended, from the subject we just talked about. For supporting our local businesses, we still always got to make sure we champion Miss Michelle Wade. Make sure we get out there and support this sister.
The hardest working lady, and she donated us some computers last week.
Yes.
Over at the office, and we're getting into them, trying to work out how to get them up and running. Several of them were some printers, so we want to say we appreciate Miss Michelle Wake for all she does.
And that's Better Home Realty, and you can reach her at 601-624-1055. So when you get ready to look for your house and before you plant your tree, this is the person you can talk to, and she can help you find the perfect spot where you can plant your trees and already have trees. The second person we must recognize, we're talking about supporting local businesses, local black-owned businesses that are in our area, which would be Next Level Experience Restaurant. The councilman has found another place where he gets him some shrimp and grits. So we definitely want to champion this place. This is located in the Metro Center, on the backside of the Metro Center. It's actually over the police station. So it's a nice, secure area. It's a complex image restaurant. It's open from 10 a.m. This is the crazy thing, Councilman, from 10 a.m. to 2 a.m.
That's right.
So you can go there and eat breakfast, eat lunch, eat supper, and then come back for a midnight snack there, all in one spot. And next Friday.
So it's right on the Lynch Street side, right? Where Woodrow Watson's used to be, ladies and gentlemen. So if you come down Lynch Street, it's right there at the top of the hill. So definitely come partake in what Brother Keefe and all the rest of them are doing over there.
Also going on tonight, right now, it's a mix and mingle for the educators at Howland Mouse. It's going on from 6 to 9, so make sure all educators are interested in networking with some of the educators, and make sure you go over there. Next week, we will have asking people to come out to attend the city council meeting at 6 p.m. There will be some highlights there of some of the work that's been going on in the local area, so make sure you come out to the city council meeting next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Also, highlighting and recognizing Dr. Edgar Smith of the Mississippi Blues Foundation. We just finished talking about the blues and some of the homegrown things in Mississippi. The blues is one of the things that, besides agriculture, that we are losing to other parts of the world. So make sure we recognize those who are keeping the fight of blues going. Dr. Edgar Smith will be recognized at the blues edition of the Jackson Nights at Next Level. They have the all-you-eat catfish for $14, and we will have music played by no other person than Jesse Robinson, who is going to be a living legend in blues himself pretty soon. So make sure you come out and support Next Level next Friday at 8 p.m. Go ahead, Council.
Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. Turn your radio down, caller.
I want to ask if you would mind asking the listening audience to come out and support Murrah High School tomorrow evening, tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. The Murrah Winter Concert. There are concert singers tomorrow evening at 6:30 p.m. The cost is 5 p.m. And the young folks are doing some awesome things. I know you're a supporter of highlighting what is going right in Jackson. And come and see Murrah High School singers tomorrow, winter concert, 6:30 p.m. $5 is the cost. We appreciate your support. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Murrah.
And as always, there are a lot of different activities going on. Make sure that you are telling the truth about Jackson as you go about your day. Go ahead and take a Facebook post to the different good activities that are going on. And let's catch this next caller. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment? Hey, how you doing?
Larry Nelson, victim of violent crime. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing well.
Hey, when you started your show off, you kind of touched just a little bit on some things that we need to be recognizing over these next few days, and one of them is prayers, condolences for individuals who've lost loved ones. The killing in the city of Jackson just continues to just be off the chain. We just have no recognition of the value of each and every one's life. So we're going to be asking our community to come together. Let's see if we can visualize and be able to pray together for these last few days of this year to try to escape a number higher than last year. We've got 60 confirmed murders at the time, and there are other shootings that have happened in this city. We call it justifiable homicide, but this killing, we've got to stop this family. We've got to stop this killing. And Councilman, before I go, one other thing, I was at the meeting on Tuesday, and right quick, this bridge at the 5500 block of Robinson Road extended. We've got to get some information on this bridge. Who the contractors are, when are they going to start doing something? I live out here, we got businesses here, tax season is right around the corner, we're just losing money, like 40 going east and west. So we do need some help. But to the people in the community, please, let's put these guns up and stop this killing. Thank you, my brother. We appreciate you, man.
All right, thank you, Larry. And that bridge is definitely on our radar. We had a briefing last night over at the Brook Hollow Neighborhood Association with that they were talking about that bridge. So it's in the pipeline, and the design work has been done. So they'll be issuing out the contract for bid very, very soon. Let's catch this number.
Right.
Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. Turn your radio down, caller.
Hey, how you doing, Council Staff?
I'm doing well.
All right, I was just listening to the show about the agriculture. I live in a little town called Walnut Grove, Mississippi.
I know exactly where you are.
Yeah. And anyways, I teach my little boys, my sons, my grandsons, and granddaughters, about agriculture, about growing their own food. And I've been doing this for about 10 or 12 years. I've been feeding my family and neighbors and friends. And, it's a good thing if people here in Jackson would come together and start doing that. We're speaking about agriculture.
Yes, sir. You're totally right. It brings the community back to the neighborhood. We got to turn these neighborhoods from just neighborhoods to communities.
Right.
Yes, sir. And one more thing I'd like to say. Have you ever considered running for governor or lieutenant governor?
There it is.
Well,
I'm being honest with you. I really do believe it's in your heart, and I'm a deacon at a church on the Pleasant Grove. It'll be church in Walnut Grove, pastor by Billy Red. It's been in my spirit that calls you and tell you this. Man, you need to do this, man. I really do believe that you can win. I really do believe that. Well, first of all, you got to believe it in your heart, though.
Well, we believe that we're going to do wherever God point us, and we're going to run hard in that direction. He planted us right here on the city council in Jackson right now, so we're going to run hard and fast and learn all we can right here at this step. And before we move forward, we didn't want to use this as a stepping stone. We wanted to use it as some time, put some serious time into this ward to move it forward. And we don't want to just leap past too quick. We want to be in this for a long time, not a short time. So.
Oh yeah. I understand. But I know you got to work here in Jackson too. But when the time comes, brother, I really do believe that you can win.
I appreciate it, brother. Thanks for the support.
All right.
And and I appreciate everybody who does support. A lot of folks asked us to run for mayor this time. A lot of folks asked for us to do several different things, and so we just feel right now we need some stability in the city. And I don't know how the mayor's race is going to turn out. I don't know how the other city council people's races are going to turn out. So we know right now the best thing for us to do is to anchor in where we are, so we can at least stabilize what's going on in the city leadership right now. Like I said, I don't know what's going to happen in the mayor's race, and I don't know how many council people are going to run for re-election, or who's going to retire, or who's going to lose their election. I don't know any of that. But we sat down and talked to the elders recently. We mainly just talked about, stabilizing where we are and getting better at serving the folks in the position we're in, so that when the time does come, we'll be ready. We don't want to move out of season. We want to make sure that we make those kind of transitions, well. First and foremost, I haven't found my replacement. First and foremost, you got to get. I don't believe in just leaving the people hanging. You got to get somebody ready that the people comfortable with, and that we can transition properly. That's one thing that we don't do well is plan for the next step. We just lily pad through positions in black politics, and we need to mature a little more so we can give the people what they need. Let's catch this call. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. Please turn your radio down, caller.
My radio is already.
I just hear some feedback.
It's feedback.
Go ahead, Ms. Benford.
Look, WLBT Channel 3 manager was advocating a city administrator for the city of Jackson. And I think I heard you mention it, we needed a city administrator. Could you give me your position and why do you think we need a city administrator? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. We brought the conversation up about the structure of the city government. A lot of times people talk about the people who have been in elected offices in the city of Jackson, and he hadn't done this, and he hadn't done this, and those different things. But I think we also need to hold the structure accountable as well as we hold the people accountable. We moved to the mayor council form of government in 1985-86 time frame, and it's been 30 years now. And we need to ask ourselves, has this form of government performed to the degree that the folks voted for it in the first place? Has this form of government performed? And we campaigned on this issue 3 years ago, and now it's starting to get some steam that people kind of agree to a degree to even just look at it. First we need to say, has this form of government even performed? And now the state laws in Mississippi give us 5 forms of government to choose from. Mayor, council is one of them. Council manager is another. For our size, we won't be able to do a mayor alderman form of government because of our population size. So the only other choice we have is a council manager form of government. And what that looks like and what we're advocating for is for 4 council people and a mayor. And those 5 people run the city, and they hire an administrator, someone who is a professional at running cities, like the city of Austin, Texas, like the city of Las Vegas, Nevada, and over half the cities around the country have this form of government where they take the politics out of government. And the politician's job are to do politics at other levels of government with the people and the county and the state and the federal government. So the politicians do those relationship buildings and get things for the community. And you have someone who is a trained professional to run the city. And what that does is, and the reason why I support it is because it makes the people who are in these positions running the city focused on performance versus relationships. Because if right now the department heads know as long as they get their mayor elected, they're good for 4 years. Well, when your city administrator can be fired any given Tuesday, that means that you as a police chief, fire chief, public works director, finance person, your position is built off performance. Because if you're performing, you can stay. But if you're not performing, you got to go. So and that trickles all the way down, because the department heads have the pool of folks that they're in charge of, right, who say, if I keep my department head in place, he keep the mayor in place. So now you create this whole little structure based on politics and not about performance, and so and some mayors have been better at managing that than others. So what I say is we have a structure in place where the whole structure, the whole employee structure is based on your performance, not based on you my cousin and you my friend, or we went to high school together. It's based on how you perform, and that's what that's what I believe the people deserve is that type of structure. When people 30 years ago, we had 3 people ran the city. We had 2 commissioners and a mayor. And so we evolved to this, and this, I don't think that it has performed well. We're going to catch this last caller. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. What's your question or comment?
I would like to say that I disagree with you. Anytime a white manager of WLBT, and we know the history of WLBT, began to advocate a city administrator, something is wrong. And I disagree with you 100% because I was there when we fought to get representation for all the wards and also to get a strong mayor. So I think that you are totally incorrect. You probably weren't even born or somewhere out in the country feeding hogs and pigs when we were fighting to get the type of government we have. Thank you.
Thank you. And but what we got was representation. We didn't get power. You just got to be, as a council person, you got a council person who doesn't have the power to pave a street, fix a street, fire anybody. That's what you got in the black community. We got representation. You're right, a voice. But I can't come out and fix your ditch. I can't come out and change any other thing. But if I'm sitting there on the council and I can get with my other 2 council colleagues and fire that person who's running the city, now you got true accountability. I can put my finger on that public works director. I can put my finger on that finance director and tell that administrator, well, you're gonna be fired next week if you don't fix this problem. Because I got 3 of my council people with me. So what we got is representation, but no power, no real power. So that's what we got. That's what we got to move forward towards getting power. So we're gonna wrap up the show. I see my beautiful mother just walked in. As always, everyone, all white folks not bad and all black folks not good. Use a little discernment to figure out who you're gonna deal with and how you're gonna rebuild your circle of friends. And never let anybody put you in a position where you don't love your own people. Because when you hate your own people, you're part of the very oppression we're trying to lift ourselves out of. I love you, Jackson. I love you, Mississippi. And Handyman, take us out of here.